the desert of the real.
Alright, welcome to the Desert of the Real. I'm your host, Jason Dietz. Joined with me is your other host,
Ryan Hudson.
The Desert of the Real, Jason's Edition, is a movie podcast where I force my co-host, Ryan Hudson, to watch movies that I think are amazing that he just hasn't seen yet. So, we are two high school English teachers that also teach film and philosophy and creativity and music appreciation classes. We have graduate degrees and we attempt to use our academic training to dig deeply into movies. We explore the creativity, the philosophy, the film studies, and the ethics in our films, and we push our listeners to think critically about their entertainment. And again, we just want to thank you for listening. This is what we do.
Yeah.
We love doing this.
We would be doing this if it wasn't for the podcast.
We just wouldn't be sitting in this opulent studio.
Yeah, we are in a very fancy studio. We got what's fancy that we could say is in here? This is the
We have electric lights in here.
This is the power of the audio medium. We have a giant array of all the snacks you could ever want. A private chef is over there.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Filet mignon, please.
Yes. Thanks for that.
But even though we would be doing this anyway, doing it for you makes it, it just gives it a gravitas for us that it wouldn't have otherwise. Helping you help the people that you love think deeply about what otherwise could be a medium that is programming them to think a certain way about the world brings us joy.
I teach a film class, and a lot of students, they don't have even the idea to think deeply about movies,
or a lot of their lives.
Yeah, and I think sometimes there's usually maybe one movie or a couple movies probably where you're like, oh, movies can be something special. Yeah. It doesn't even have to be like the most artsy movie. Like, I feel like The Dark Knight that I saw when I was like 13, I was like, oh wow, look at this movie. This movie's a little bit different for some reason. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
Hey, today we're talking about a movie called I Am Mother. It's a Netflix movie from 2019. Yeah. There's a good chance you haven't seen it, so we're gonna...
Which is sad.
Well, there's a lot to watch, okay?
Yeah, but...
There's a lot of content out there.
I'm just gonna say, before you give us a summary, that on a I don't know how many times I watched this, I think that this movie may be a perfect movie. So I'll just say that, and I'll defend it later.
Well, I like this movie too.
So Ryan's going to give us a brief summary of this movie.
Yeah, so then after the summary, we will get into spoilers. So if you want maximum appreciation of this movie and this podcast, stop here and then go watch the movie. Anyway, but to the simple summary that I would give this movie, all humans are gone. And what's left is this one robot, which is Mother, and she has grown and raised a baby, because in this world, babies only take 24 hours to go from embryo to baby.
It's science fiction.
Yeah, exactly. And so this robot is raising this girl, and then teaching this girl, and then maybe some things aren't what they seem when another human knocks on the door, and the girl has to start figuring things out. And that's I Am Mother.
Oh, wow.
That's all I'll say.
Oh.
Other stuff happens.
Nope.
That's what
no real spoilers.
If I was going into this movie, that's what I would be comfortable with.
With knowing beforehand?
Yeah, that's all I would want to know, I should say.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well.
Is that fair to say?
If you're still listening, we're going to ruin this movie.
Yeah, we're going to spoil it.
If you haven't seen it, so...
A little bit of further background knowledge, just since we're here. This film was written by directors Grant Sapor and Michael Lloyd Green. It was produced on a low-budget principal photography, and it was completed in 2017.
Wait, this had a low budget?
Yeah, this is actually
wow.
super low budget. In fact, I went back and rewatched the segment. There's a YouTube channel I like, Corridor Crew, where they break down scenes. Anyway, and they talked to, I think it was the director. He talked about, like, the budget was so low. Actually, Deets, the robot, how did they do that? How do you think they did that?
I'm thinking not a person in a suit. Is it a person in a suit?
It's a person in a suit.
Oh, wow.
There are shots that it is CGI.
Right.
But it's actually mostly a person in a suit. And they designed this special suit where it's like the head is too high for a person and stuff, so it doesn't look like a person in a suit.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I don't know, 90% will say, is a practical thing.
I would never, ever have thought that this was a low-budget movie.
But the director said if the suit broke or something happened to the suit, they didn't have the budget to make a new one, basically.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, low budget in movies, actually, I should look up what the budget is. It's still a lot of money to normal people, but movie-wise, it's super low budget. Right. But it only has like 3 characters, and one of them's a robot. And it's a voice, you know? And the set is pretty contained. I mean, it's not
but it looks amazing.
Yeah, it does. It looks incredible. You can tell that the crew or the people making the special effects are like pretty passionate about it.
Yeah.
And I think the director might come from special effects. Anyway, so this was filmed in 2017, so it wasn't released in 2019. The screenplay was on the 2016 Blacklist. Do you know what the Blacklist is?
Naughty people that don't get to make their movies?
Kinda. It's a list of screenplays that Hollywood people have said, this is good and I like this. Oh,
so the opposite.
So it's not at all what you said, yeah. But like,
wait, you said kind of? I was completely wrong.
Yeah. Well, I wanted you to feel good about it. But
oh my.
No, but the Blacklist is a Hollywood list of screenplays that, like, oh, this is good stuff, and people like have bidding wars on it and things. Like, oh, they got picked up because it was on the Blacklist. So if you're a screenwriter, you want yours on the Blacklist.
Okay.
Anyway, the Mother Robot is a full-body creature suit built by Weta Workshop. There's a lot of pauses in this, but Weta, do you know what Weta is most famous for?
Gremlins. No, I have no idea.
ILM, you think Star Wars. It was this special effects studio made to make Star Wars, and it was built from the ground up. Weta is similar, but with Lord of the Rings. So Weta was, yeah, and now they do other things. Like they also do like the Avatar stuff, and they even did some Marvel things here and there. But Weta, similar to ILM, are like, they created technology. They are responsible for developing things that were never done before they did it, type of thing. And so there's got a workshop. They make movies just like ILM does, but in New Zealand, which is really cool.
That is cool.
It's cool that Weta was part of this. So this is an Australian film. South Australian interactive media company Monkey Sack produced all of the on-set practical screen content. The work in progress cut of the film was screened at the Adelaide Film Festival on October 12th, 2018. But then it premiered at the Sundance Film Festival in January 2019. Yeah, but Sundance, you want your movie to premiere at Sundance because that's, one of the famous ones. And if you're lucky, it gets picked up by a distributor. And that's what happened here. Netflix bought it. Like Netflix, I want that one for us.
Yeah.
It was going to be released in Australia, but because of Netflix, it did not get a theatrical release, which is kind of a bummer.
That is a bummer.
Yeah. That's Netflix for you.
This could have been a super famous movie.
Yeah. That's like the thing, and we've had this conversation before about streaming. Like, it's the debate about, is it better to have a film made but be buried in streaming versus not made at all, Because it's like people,
Yeah.
a lot fewer people will see this now. Because it's just one of the things that is on Netflix. But it was made and it's released and it is there, so that is better.
Yeah.
The alternative was not to be
I don't
made,
know.
I suppose.
This might be this might be a crusade movie for me then.
Yeah. Like, if you go on...
Get people to watch this movie.
If you go on Letterboxd, it's kind of got a lukewarm...
That's absurd.
It's got
Oh
a
my goodness.
3.1.
That's absurd.
What you should do is go to all the negative
I'm not-
comments and be like, you're wrong, and here's why.
I might do that. That's crazy.
Anyway.
I guess if I'm looking at it from like I just watched Star Wars and now I come to this as another science fiction, I mean, visually not a massive amount of stuff happens.
I think people... I was looking at a couple of just normal people reviews, and I think that's like, oh, this is a 3 because it's not big.
Right, there's no
Yeah.
explosive crap, but like the intellectual depth of this movie, I don't know that I've ever seen a movie that brought more philosophical, like that forced me to think more deeply than this movie did.
Yeah. I'm excited. I'm excited to talk to you about this because, like, it not only infected my brain, but also my wife's brain. There is something that happens at the end of Moana 2, which we just saw. Okay. And I was like, Dietz would think this is emotionally manipulative. No, but the thing is, my wife said that. She's like, I thought of Dietz. He would not have liked that part. I was like, you're right. He would have hated that part.
Yeah. I want real emotion. So, we can... Like, I don't...
Like, you have a lot to talk about for the philosophy.
Right, I don't know how to do our normal approach to this movie.
I think most of this will be philosophy. Let me just say a few things that stood out to me.
Okay.
And then we'll just dive into the philosophy stuff.
Okay.
First off, though, there's a lot of studio logos. There's like 5.
Oh, really?
I was like, oh, another one. Oh,
Like
another one.
in the movie?
Yeah, like before it starts. There's
right.
quite a few. I'm like,
Okay,
wow, there's
yeah.
a lot of this. I was wondering, would the baby... I guess the baby sees itself in the mirror, but when does it not think it's a robot? You know what I mean?
Right. Like, so that question doesn't happen in the span of the movie, right? That's...
Yeah.
I mean, we have the baby, and then we have the little girl, and then we have I guess she's I never really got a clear sense of how old she was, but maybe late teens.
The actress, I think, is... Actually, if it was 2017, she's technically, 20.
So what you're asking about is, I think we've talked about Lacan like a long time ago.
Because they name drop Lacan.
Yeah, like the mirror stage is what you're talking about. And that's a really interesting question that applies to us too. Like, when do we recognize ourselves as individuals separate from? So in her case, when does she recognize that she's a robot? Or that she's not a robot. I don't know that it would happen any differently.
Yeah.
Because as soon as you recognize yourself as independent or an individual separate from the world around you, you're different in some way.
Yeah. I had no idea Hilary Swank was in this.
Until she was?
Yeah, I was like, Hilary Swank's in this?
Yeah, and she's so good in this.
I felt like when the girl saw Hilary Swank, which is just called Woman, it's called Daughter. The character names are Daughter and Woman and Mother. Those are the 3 characters. I feel like that interaction would have been interesting. It seemed she seemed not surprised, I suppose.
Not surprised enough.
Because then she goes in, gets her looking through her stuff.
Right.
She just seems kind of nonplussed, I suppose. I don't know. But then once again, it's like, well, she obviously knows what a human is.
Right.
And because she watches TV, she knows about humans. So maybe she is just mentally, she's like, oh, this is a human. I know how to do this situation.
Right.
So, I mean,
that's what she's been trained to do.
That's why it's not really a thing. It's just like, oh, I don't know how that would play out, but I thought it would be something different.
There are a couple of those kind of things. Like, how does daughter know to shake hands or to give hugs or...
Well, why does she watch The Late Show with Johnny Carson?
Right, that's a good question.
Because that's, as far as we know, her favorite show.
That's her only show.
Her only show, as far as we know.
Yeah, that's a really interesting question because Mother, later on, like right near the end, said that what she was trying to do was create a better human.
Yes.
And everything that she...
Oh, okay. Keep going.
No, go.
No, so it's like...
I don't want to go. You go.
Well, maybe it's got to be like, this is the best example of people. How they present themselves on talk shows.
Yeah. Maybe.
And how should you interact? It should be how it guest shows...
polite and...
Yeah. Oh, that's proud. I like that. I like that.
Yeah, yeah. But, I mean,
that's
at the same time, like, we only ever see her watching the interview portion.
That's true.
Because, like, if you have watched The Late Show with Johnny Carson, there are parts of it that are not remotely at all how we would want a better human to act. So maybe she has selectively provided... Actually, we can infer that she has definitely... selectively chosen specific episodes or pieces.
Johnny Carson would come... I mean, I've never watched it. I mean, I'm not that old, you know what I mean? But he probably comes out and, like, just tells some jokes about current events.
Raunchy
and there's
jokes.
There's probably... Mother probably wouldn't want her to see the current events of, like, the olden days, you know?
So, it's probably just the interviews.
Yeah, like, that's all it is. Interesting.
Yeah.
I like that.
And it's interesting that they chose Steve Martin and Whoopi Goldberg as the two, like, those are the two people that we know daughter watches.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, they're both comedians and anyhow. So, what else?
I think it's kind of cool how the device used to get the embryo and insert the embryo looks like a gun. Mm-hmm. And I think that's on purpose.
Yeah. So it's on purpose. Like, what do you think it...
The thing that takes you out of this world is the thing that brings you into this world in this movie.
Yeah. Cool.
So we see woman, Hilary Swank, praying at a certain point.
Yeah.
And then she tells the story about the guy who's essentially her brother, and then his wife, and then the guy that she was with. Mm-hmm. Their names are Jacob, Rachel, and Simon. And she's praying, and those are all Bible names.
Right.
And I don't know the connection yet, but I think that's also on purpose.
Probably.
Religion versus what the robot wants in this world.
Sure.
I'm getting the idea that the robot doesn't want religion, but I don't know if that's what they're going for.
I don't know either.
I don't know.
I didn't get that.
Maybe there's some illusions.
But, I mean, essentially what Mother is creating is an Eve.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Without an Adam.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
Whoa. Yeah. You just blew my mind again. Okay.
Well, buckle up, listener, because there's a bunch more.
Here's a fun question for you.
Yeah.
Would you rather go live through a robo-apocalypse or a zombie apocalypse? Question coming at you from 2012.
2012? What happened in 2012?
Zombies were huge. That's when Walking Dead started. There was World War Z.
I think I would rather go in a robot apocalypse. Part of what makes zombies so scary is that they're us.
Yeah.
And so somewhere in there, like, we have a hard time not thinking that somewhere in there is an us that we could reach somehow. And especially if the zombie's coming at me with my kids and my wife.
Yeah.
No way. I'd much rather go a robot with obviously no feelings, no whatever. Is just going to laser me. Yeah. That's how I would go. How would you go?
I feel like I would be able to survive longer in a zombie apocalypse. Okay, so I don't know if I brought this up. There's a good chance we've talked about this. But I just wanted... There's a pretty cool example of the Kuleshov effect. The Kuleshov effect was named after someone named Kuleshov, but...
Wait, really?
Anyway, this is the principle of it. We, humans, are able to make connections with images, like subconsciously, like automatically. So, you could take an image of a person, let's say it's just a guy, staring at something... And then you cut to the thing that it's staring at.
I do remember this.
Right.
Okay.
And like the example that Google pulls up is like, oh, a dead child. Now, it doesn't matter what his face is. It's just like a straight face. He's sad. He sees food. It cuts to him looking at food. The same face. He's now hungry. He's looking at a woman. Now he wants women. He's looking at a family. He's a loving family guy. We connect one image with the other image. This movie has a really, really, really cool example of Kuleshov effect because you think it means one thing, and then at the end of the movie, you're like, oh, that's... Or a rewatch. Like, that's not what that look means. Because Mother is just... Her face is like a circle with, like, on a square, you know? So, when daughter is talking to woman, Mother's looking at her. Mm-hmm. And at first... And the Kuleshov effect, we're adding meaning. Like, oh... She's jealous or she's angry. She's calculating that this is bad and wrong. Uh-oh. But then you get to the end of the movie and you're like, oh no, she wanted that to happen. Yeah. She was behind the whole thing.
So good.
So it changes what it was. Yeah. Which is really cool.
It is really cool.
Anyway, this movie has a lot of logos versus pathos, and I'm sure that is what makes you very happy.
I genuinely, this could be a 3-hour episode for me. I'm trying to... Okay, so I'm going to pull a couple of these things, and we're going to... So, listener, I forewarned Ryan that we were going to have a philosophical discussion rather than me saying stuff. So I pulled a number of questions that this movie raises out, and we're just going to kind of bat them back and forth and see what comes out. So the first one that comes up in the movie is the question, do humans have intrinsic value? Meaning, is a human being valuable just by virtue of being a living human being?
I do. Okay, so I do. I think unquestionably I do. So I remember there was an Oscar acceptance speech where it goes off the rails, or at least it felt like it went off the rails, because he started talking about the misuse of cows, like using cow milk and stuff, whatever. Okay. Okay. And I remember I was talking to someone about it, and I was like, yeah, we don't want to abuse animals, but, like, say a cow, but a cow does not contribute to the world at large the same that a human does, or can. You know what I mean? Okay. I mean, we don't want to abuse animals, but if it becomes an animal versus a human... It's going to be a human. We can talk, we can think, but we also are capable of more than animals.
True. I think I would agree with that, at least initially. But then we have to dig deeper. So do all humans have the same value?
And are you going to ask the 5 doctor question?
No, because we've already kind of played with that in other places.
Yeah,
do all humans have the same value?
Well, I am thinking about that scene in the movie where Mother's like, there are 4 people that need organs, and you're the only person that can donate the organs.
Mm-hmm.
And then daughter's like, well, what if one of them is a murderer? Or,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So now I'm thinking of that. That's going to influence my answer here.
Yeah.
Because she even says, I thought so last week, but now I don't think so.
Last week when we were doing
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is fun. So I think if a person chooses to misuse their human rights, it can affect it. So like if
decreases their value.
yeah, if someone chooses to murder someone, we'll just murder, the worst thing, one of the worst, it's up there.
It's probably up there.
Murder is a bad thing. So if a person chooses to murder, and versus someone who didn't murder, the person who didn't murder, I think, does have more value.
Okay. No matter what they murdered for or who they murdered?
Okay, alright. Well, let's say murdered in cold blood. No vengeance, no
Murdered
self-defense.
Hitler in cold blood. Okay, so...
Alright.
Okay, so then, even though all humans have value,
Yeah.
we're saying that some humans are more valuable than other humans.
Man, alright. Well, now, what if...
I'm not disagreeing with you.
I know, but now I'm thinking, like, I mean, it depends on situation. It's the depends is like the D word in my class.
Yeah.
Every question's like, it depends. Like,
Yeah.
I know, but what do you...
So I'm trying to get us to think of this from Mother's perspective.
Okay.
So Mother came into being at some point before this movie started. She was created, I guess, by a group of human beings.
Yeah.
And tasked with saving the human race.
Yeah. And
right?
I think something interesting I noticed was the movie makes it look like she came into being mere moments before daughter was, which is a lie.
It is a withholding of certain information.
Yes.
Which is another thing we're going to talk about, because this whole movie is just a series of, like, oh my gosh, I didn't know that. And then you have to rethink the whole movie, and then you get another one, and then you're like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Anyhow, so Mother was created
to
save the human race.
Right.
And then, so we're going out of order of discovery in the movie.
Okay.
So she was created, she created a bunch more of herself, and as she's trying to save the human race, at some point she realizes basically the entire human race sucks.
Yeah.
And kills everyone.
Yes.
So, based on what value of the human is that like a logical conclusion? Because we assume, so we assume that Mother is a logos-based, logic-based system.
100%.
Right. In what way do we look at humanity that we just need to wipe the slate and start over? Like, what is the value that we are not achieving, do you think? Or I'll give you an example. Because, we can go through the movie. We can get a clue to that by what does Mother teach daughter. And what Mother teaches daughter over and over and over is our favorite utilitarian ethics.
Yes.
Over and over and over, she brings that up.
She literally says that.
Yeah. Over and over. And so, in what sense of the greatest good for the greatest number of people is wiping out the entire human race going to yield a higher value of humans?
You know what? What this reminds me of? When Thanos erases half.
Yeah. Yes. So what's the value
that next time it'll be better, hypothetically.
Okay.
And what's funny is Mother then, like, to raise the best people possible, we need ethics. We need to literally teach ethics.
Yeah. I mean, we know that she's taught her other things.
Yeah.
Because at one point she operates on woman.
Does ballet, does running.
Right. And so we have that. So humanity, extinction event, didn't have enough of that. wasn't interested in that? Like, what happened?
I mean,
do we think?
But I feel like Mother just looked at the world and said, "There's more bad than good."
Sure.
That's what I imagine.
So there's more harm being done than good being done.
Yeah.
So we wipe it out.
Let's start over.
And start over. Okay. So if we operate on that premise, the human beings have value based on the good bad ratio, then what do we do? If we apply that in our society, and in order for you to be a valuable human being, your good has to outweigh your bad.
Okay, yeah.
So what does society look like?
Like, what would it look like?
Mm-hmm.
It'd be a better society. You would not have to worry about locking your car or your things being stolen, or you wouldn't have to worry about, I don't know, people robbing you. That's the same thing twice. Let me think of a different example.
Or stealing from you.
Punching you in the face.
Okay.
Or being rude, you know?
So that sounds great.
Yeah.
So Mother is right.
Well, kinda. Okay,
So,
alright, hold on. Let me retract that, because I was being facetious.
No, but I think you're right.
Does it equal killing the planet? No.
Okay.
But if you fast forwarded this movie 100 years, it probably would look pretty good.
Okay. And so, Mother's right.
Yeah.
Okay. So then
I guess so.
So that's the trap of utilitarian ethics.
Yeah.
Is we can justify anything if we can make that equation.
Yeah.
Like good is greater than the bad, right?
Yeah.
We've got that. So then Mother sets about, and this is the next kind of question. So do humans have intrinsic value? We said yes. Does your value fluctuate? We kind of said yes, it does, depending on your actions and what you're contributing. So the open question that, we can try to answer if we want is, then what? So if it becomes obvious, in my case, for example, that my bad is going to far outweigh my good, what should we do as a society? So currently, our society's answer is we should put them in a prison for X years and then let them back out. And then they do some other horrible thing. We put them into prison. We let them back out. Yeah. That's generalizing, but recidivism rates are very, very high. Meaning the number of people that come out of prisons rehabilitated is very small. And so our societies, we err on the side of bad currently. Yeah. Like we punish or try to correct or whatever, but we don't permanently correct very much.
Right.
So is our society broken and is Mother right? Okay, go ahead.
Can we talk about maybe some examples from history and fiction that maybe some potential solutions?
That's why this is going to be a 3-hour episode.
So we have the Code of Hammurabi.
Yes.
Where it's like you do something bad, you get severely punished.
Yeah. And guess what happened in Hammurabi's society?
Right. People didn't do bad stuff. After they got their hands cut off, their eyes cut out.
Crazy.
So, but then it's like, does that affect people? People's rights, the thing we were just talking about.
Right.
Or think of 1984. It's, you just literally can't do anything. You can't break the law because someone's always watching. So you don't break the law.
Right.
Because you'll get rats eating your face.
Sure. Yes. Exactly.
Or what else is there? Or Fahrenheit 451 or Brave New World. You take away everything that makes you think. You know? We're not going to take away your laws, but we're going to take away the things that make you even realize there were things taken away, you know?
So we take all of those examples. There are things in all of those examples we're like, oh, yeah, we don't want that.
Yeah.
We don't want that. We don't want any of that. And so what's left? How do we balance the individual bad outweighing the individual's good? What do we do?
How can we fix the world with this podcast?
Yeah,
that's what you're asking me.
That is what I've been about.
You want me to come up with the solution for planet Earth?
Well, Mother came up with the solution.
I mean, it's tempting.
So, functionally, what Mother did, because, okay, I will come clean on a premise. I believe that people are inherently good.
What?
Yes.
Whoa,
I believe
this is
that.
Big news.
So I believe people are inherently...
Wait, I got more. Philosophy teacher comes out with a definitive answer.
Yeah, but on this podcast, I'm not a philosophy teacher.
Yes, you are.
I am a podcaster. Anyhow.
Anyway.
So if we accept that premise, then where does the bad come from?
That's a great question. Is it, let me just make up a phrase. Is it... nature versus nurture,
That's a brilliant way to ask that question. So,
if you put one person on an island alone, how would they be as a grown-up?
So, I think I think that's where it comes from.
Yeah.
In large measure is our nurture.
Yeah.
Society teaches us, our parents teach us, school teaches us, the bully teaches us, whatever. And so what Mother has functionally done to solve the good outweighing the bad has gotten rid of all of the potential negative influences.
Yeah. Okay.
So, and Mother has only instructed her daughter in good.
Yes.
And so, what is the result?
So, okay, and that's another fun thing. Because at first, literal ethic lessons.
Mm-hmm.
And then, at first, you're like, oh, now she can literally use them in a real life scenario.
Yeah.
This is interesting. And then it's implied this was all orchestrated by Mother.
Absolutely.
Hilary Swank coming and everything was like the ultimate ethical test for Mother.
Yeah.
Yeah, to see if she can do it.
And she passed.
And she passes.
So, her daughter passing this final exam and taking her role as basically
as Mother,
the Eve,
yeah,
suggests that, at least for in the case of this movie, that this plan works.
Yeah.
So in order for us to fix society, what we need to do is take everyone out of it.
Yeah. And
only allow instruction in good.
Yeah.
And then we bring them together.
And what's fun about that ending, it's like, okay, so this is the future. They're going to create a colony here. They have corn. Sure. They have robots to everything. But what's fun is it's implied that Hilary Swank has people still alive. You know?
Or maybe not.
Or maybe not. But there's that line where Mother, she says, the daughter mentions other people. And Mother says, did she tell you where they are?
Yeah.
And it's like, oh,
does
she
interested.
Not know?
Yeah. So then, if Mother's plan works, why isn't that the plan that we use? Do we think?
Because I guess humans are imperfect. Like, if we tried this, let's isolate a number of people away. They don't get to see anything of the world. And they're only going to be taught the best things. I think it's only a matter of time or generations when someone starts to naturally want to do something different.
Why?
I just think that's how people are. I don't know.
People are just rebellious inherently?
Or not. Yeah, I guess.
So what we have then now, like you already mentioned, is a utopian vision.
Yeah.
Like this, logically, this seems like it would work.
Right.
This is how, we should create an AI that will teach our children to only good and eliminate any intentional or accidental nurture that pushes us to bad, and society works, right?
Yeah.
Logically.
Yeah.
Okay, so you mentioned earlier that this is a logos versus pathos.
Yeah.
So the logic side says this is how society should be.
Right.
You are are representative of pathos.
Yes.
Why not? Like your wife just had a baby.
Yeah.
Why couldn't we have just taken that baby away from you, put it in this mother situation for 20 years,
Right.
and then released her to the world? Why not?
Well, first off, you'd be taking our child away.
But she'd be great.
Yeah, I know, but
She would be a great human.
yeah, but even in an imperfect world that we live in, even with all the trials and stuff we go through, it's still worth it to live, to be with one another, it's...
So even though your daughter is going to end up being imperfect,
Yeah.
and maybe the bad outweighs the good or the good outweighs the bad,
Right.
we want to take that chance.
Yeah, because you could go like your specific you turned out good, or you think about your own life, I should say.
Sure.
You think about what brought you to this point, like, well, I lived through all of that, and a lot of things shaped me.
Well, but
It's
in
just...
my case, I think I've probably shared this. I hated my early self. Like, as an adult, there are a massive list of things that I did to people, things I said, that I hated myself for a long time. And so the end result of all of that and my journey, yes, is me sitting here. But does the good of my life outweigh the bad of my life? And I don't know how you would calculate that.
It's kind of like whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or to take arms against the sea of troubles and by opposing end them. You know what I mean? I just came up with that.
Yeah, just off the top of your...
Is it more noble?
Is
it more noble to suffer the slings and arrows or end them? And the answer is, it's more noble to suffer the slings and arrows, because the alternative is not living anymore. And there's something my English teacher used to say when we read, I just thought of this, when we read Princess Bride. Life's not fair. It's fairer than death, that's all. You know what I mean?
True, yeah.
And to some degree, and on a serious note, the people do kill themselves because they have decided, yes, it is more nobler to end the suffering,
right,
for whatever reason. But that can't be the solution, because then society would fall. We know there are reasons to live.
Yeah, for
in
sure.
this imperfect life.
Yeah. So, can I add?
Yes, please do.
So, I've kind of been pushing the mother side of this.
Yeah.
The obvious, well, maybe not obvious, the problem with mother's version of this is kind of what you're saying. It is through the challenges, the difficulties, the trials, the people mistreating us, that we become human. So is daughter human? I don't know that she is yet, because she hasn't suffered anything.
Yeah,
she hasn't been through anything. I mean, I guess technically this experience with woman is something, but she's never been hungry. She's never been sad or happy, like any of that. And so from a standpoint of creating actual human beings, mother's plan does not work. Because we have to have the bad so that we can appreciate the good. We have to go through trial so we get stronger. The other aspect, in terms of, that's an individual perspective, in terms of a whole culture, if an entire culture was built by mother's plan, it would never progress. It would just be stagnant, because no one would ever push on anything. No one would ever try to change anything, because they'd all been taught that this is the greatest good for the greatest number of people. Yeah,
and then you could also think she finds the jawbone in the ash, which she realizes she wasn't the first daughter.
Yeah, that's a... Oh, man.
And then it's like, oh, why was this one killed? Well, apparently she wasn't deemed ethical enough.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, what is
So
an
good.
ethical
Oh my gosh.
person? And I sat in one of your... Remember? I don't know what was going on that day. I sat in one of your debate clubs where they're talking about morality. Remember?
Yeah.
What is moral? Or who decides what moral? And that's the thing. Mother has...
Right.
And who decides that's the best moral way
Right.
to live, you know?
Well, it is like we went through it. If we're on the continuum between logos and pathos,
Yeah.
Mother represents extreme logos.
Yeah.
And so who decides it? Hopefully not the extreme logic people.
You'd be Vulcans, you know?
In an extreme logos society, the calculus of that is brutal. Like, it's a brutal calculus. That as long as we end up with one more human than the humans that we've sacrificed, that is the greatest good for the greatest number of people.
Yeah.
So, even though I am a leaning logic guy, I recognize that part of what makes humanity function
Yeah.
is that emotional component that we have to have it. And Mother didn't.
Good
So another kind of fundamental question is she calls, so Mother calls daughter a good child, and at the end of the early in the movie, at the end of the movie, when daughter's asking Mother, like, what are you trying to do? She says, create a better human.
Yeah.
So what does that look like? So this is another one of
She
those
had to elevate.
one of those pillar questions in philosophy is what does a good human look like? So what do you think? What is some elements of a good human?
Someone who... People who think of others before themselves, I suppose. Like, everyone. Everyone doing that.
Okay.
So it's like, how can I help you? Or let me help you type of attitude.
Okay.
Like,
so
what is... Yeah, go on.
No, you go.
It's
finish.
just like, what is... instead of... I mean, because people, I think, are naturally greedy. And even if you don't think...
So people are inherently evil.
Well, no, it's just their greediness makes them imperfect, but not evil. Like, you know, it's Christmas time nearby.
Sure.
It's tempting. You buy yourself a present or some present. It's tempting to be like, oh, can I get more? You know? Or
Sure.
As a small example.
Sure.
A big example are CEOs, like firing people, but raising their own annual income, you know? Like, this is not good, but it's happening all the time somehow.
Sure.
I think it's just natural to want more. Even like children. I want that toy, you know? I think it's... And you overcome it as an adult to some degree, you know?
Yeah,
but if you're a
hopefully.
good person, instead of that, you're thinking of other people. You're like,
Always?
Yeah, I think that's the perfect society. Or maybe this is just nonsense, I guess.
No.
Are people who are willing to just, help others in need.
Okay, so if we live in this society where everyone loves themselves and loves each other in the fullest sense of that,
Yeah.
what does that look like?
Would it look kind of like life, but no homeless people and no billionaires? I don't know, actually.
So communism? Or socialism?
It's socialism in its pure state, I suppose, maybe.
Okay, so we all just work and lift, and that's
I don't know.
I just finished Atlas Shrugged over Thanksgiving break.
A little light reading for you.
So I have that in my head. So Atlas Shrugged is basically like 4,000 pages of this is why that could never work.
I mean,
but if we just so then we have this society where everyone loves themselves enough to take care of themselves, to better themselves, to increase their ability to act.
Yeah.
And they do the same thing for everyone else.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's our standard for...
What's your standard?
No, I'm
All
in.
right, sure.
I'm in.
Sure.
So I'm not taking... No, I am my whole...
Building a mediocre society brick by brick here.
How could that possibly be
I
mediocre?
I don't know.
No, like if you read my philosophy, my own personal one, it sounds remarkably like that. So then we have that society up here. That's a better human or a perfect human or whatever. And then we're here.
Yeah.
Why can't we be there? Like what? So this is the philosophical question of why are we here in the muck and treating each other like we do and treating ourselves like we do? Why are we still here if we can conceptualize of a world where we and everyone that we know are better humans?
Okay. I think it's because it takes work and it's easy
to be a slum.
To be a slum or even to get angry. You know, it's easy to be passive instead of active.
Sure.
You know what I mean? It's easy to see something on the internet and just tweet about how dumb that is or how angry it makes you instead of doing a thing, you know?
Okay.
I don't know.
Sure. So then,
you know?
So then the reason why, if I Am Mother is coming in our future, the reason why humanity will be destroyed can be condensed down to that concept. Like we're lazy.
And laziness, I guess, also bleeds into anger, bleeds into, you know...
Because it's easier to be angry than it is
to forgive someone.
It's
easier to not help out when it's easier to go home and just sit down, you know, after a hard day's work. You know what I mean?
Okay, so then you have solved humanity.
Yes, I have.
So if every individual... Yeah. If every individual on the planet stopped being lazy...
Yeah.
Then we can achieve better human.
Yes.
Cool. There you go, listener. So you as an individual then, can we as individuals become better humans?
Yeah. Well, and then but then again, it's more nuanced in real life, obviously. Like, you have a long day of work, and then you get home, the dishwasher's broken, you know?
Sure.
You don't get some time to yourself, and like, I just want to relax right now, but you don't get that, and maybe that might make you angry. Or let's say that you have a coworker, or even, I don't know, your neighbor or your family member makes you angry. You can't escape this person. That's where you live or work, you know?
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, let me just be the better person. Yeah, well, Susan is stealing my lunch every day.
Okay, but
you know,
you said let me just be the better person. But what does that mean? So if we take the idea that the lazy option is the bad option.
Okay.
So Susie steals your lunch. The lazy option is, wow, that sucks. I hate you, and I'm gonna write daggers on my paper with your name in it. That's the lazy option. What's the better human option?
I guess the not is you love them at an arm's distance. You don't need to be their best friend.
Sure.
But there's no reason to hate them or hold grudges.
Okay.
You know, it's like holding a grudge is like drinking poison and wanting the other person to die.
Yeah.
Did Mark Twain say that?
I don't know, but that's brilliant.
You know?
Yeah.
It's like, don't waste your energy being negative.
Okay.
But that's easier said than done, especially if you have to deal with this hypothetical person.
But then, easier said than done puts us right back where we started.
Dang it.
It's easier said than done, so I'm not going to do it. That puts us right back in lazy.
Yeah.
So I would suggest a non-lazy approach to that is you confront Susie and you're like, dang, you keep taking my lunch. I'm hungry. Why are you taking my lunch?
Yeah.
And then Susie's going to tell you, maybe she'll just say, I take it because I think you suck. Or maybe, I'm starving. It's the only meal I get or whatever.
Right.
But the non-lazy option then moves us into a place where we can love Susie just as much as we love ourselves, right? So I think that you've hit on, if not the key, a major key for what Mother is trying to accomplish. Yes. She has definitely, if we look at Daughter is not lazy in any sense of that word.
Yeah.
At least from what we see. She is always doing something to better herself, learn, to grow, to develop, whatever. So, Better Human is right there for humanity.
Yeah.
Individually and collectively, if we just stop being lazy. Okay. Yeah. So, let's test that out. We go back in... I don't know, we can go back to the robber barons in U.S. history. The people who, created America by enslaving people and making them create railroads and taking land from people. They were obviously not lazy.
Right.
So if we consider laziness the only thing keeping us from being better humans, then those people, the robber barons, were good. Mm-hmm. But generally speaking, our favorite
if you think about it, the economy needed
sure.
a boost that get more money to more people.
Sure.
Okay. I don't know what I'm talking about.
It's not really debatable that the United States is what it is because of the robber barons.
Yeah, there's a point in American history where the rich people had more power over the White House.
Yeah.
Like that, it's a really interesting time in American history.
Yeah.
And of course, we needed a few triangle fires and child labors to get better laws. So,
yeah. And so, we're not going to keep going, but that process that we just started, where we bring in an idea, we test it out, what is the logical use, and we decide, laziness is part of what makes us slummy humans. We've identified a piece. Is that the whole picture? We come up with an example of someone who wasn't lazy, but we also don't consider good.
Yeah.
And then we figure out, so what do we need to fix here? That's the process of creating a philosophy.
Yeah.
In this case, of what it means to be a better human. We test, we reject, we move, we test. If we followed that path, we would end up with your philosophy of what it takes to be a better human. So, okay.
Oh, wait. Can I? There's one point I wanted to highlight before we get to your question. Because I finished the movie, and then I was reading a few things. I wanted to go back and rewatch the ethical quiz with the doctor and the four patients. Right. So there's a line. She says, "Your ethical quiz is coming up," and little do we know is that you die if you don't pass this.
Right.
The mother literally says, "It is more a test of my competence than yours."
Right.
Meaning, if you don't pass this, I have to follow my objectives and murder you.
Right.
Yeah. Which is
super cool.
Yeah.
There's, I don't know. I don't have words to express how much I love this movie.
Yeah.
It's just, anyhow. But that revelation, that meant one thing when it was said, and another thing after, is kind of the core of this last concept that I want us to play around with.
Nice.
So we've talked about the pillar question, what is reality?
Yeah.
Multiple times in this podcast. But in this case, we have at least 4 different versions of reality that Daughter experiences. So which of those versions is reality?
Okay. Can I?
Yeah.
There's the reality of just her and Mother.
Right.
Then there's the reality of, there's a person there's people out there maybe.
Potentially, yeah.
And can I trust Mother?
Okay.
Because that's the thing in the middle. It's who's telling the truth,
Right, so there's people out there.
Then there's just her and woman.
Right.
and now she's like the new mother as a foil.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last reality is at the end.
Eve, yeah.
I am mother now.
Yeah.
Were those the 4 you're talking about? Cool.
There's at least those, yeah. So, which is reality? It's just me and Mother, and my job is to grow up into an amazing human. There is potentially a bunch of humans.
Everything I know is a lie.
Everything I know is a lie. Mother is evil, and everything is evil, and I need to be with woman.
Yeah.
And then the last one is I am God, basically. I am Eve. I am what's real.
The first one reminds me of classic dystopians like The Giver, or all of them. Everything's... yeah, this is society.
The scripted reality.
Wait a second, that apple's red now for some reason.
Right.
You know? Things aren't what... And then the questioning is like maybe loss of faith, or you realize your parents aren't perfect, or whatever. You're coming to yourself. I think, unfortunately, it's the one with woman. This is the world. It's hard, it's gritty, but you're not a slave anymore. When she shoots Mother, and it's like, oh, I'm in control now. Mother's in control the whole time.
Right.
So it's the one where she's out.
Out and free of Mother.
Yeah.
That's reality.
Would you disagree?
No. So if daughter and woman had stayed there and lived in that reality, then that reality would have ended.
Yeah.
The mother would have come, oh, you suck, you failed, dead.
Yeah.
So
you don't have a purpose.
Right.
You're not essential.
So that's the only one of those 4 realities that has a very definite end.
Yeah.
In the future. And so what is the role of endings in reality? So to put it more metaphysically, if something doesn't have an end, is it still real?
I don't know.
So the obvious example of this is God.
Okay.
Like the Judeo-Christian, well, even like any conception of God in society tends to be a God that doesn't have an end. Like they have been, they will be. So if we look at that, does that make God unreal? Or can things that have ends and things that don't have ends both be real?
You can see it, you can touch it, it's real. But there's things you can't see.
Ideas.
Ideas, and those are real too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So no.
It doesn't have to have an end in order to be real?
Yes. I am so...
Okay.
I
Sorry,
hope.
I'm trying to...
No.
Okay, so then if we're running through how do we find the answer to what is reality?
Yeah.
We've discovered something that isn't a criteria.
Okay.
So the ending of it or not ending of it isn't really a criteria for whether or not something is real.
Yeah.
So that reality can be real, but that doesn't eliminate any of the other 3 as reality.
Oh, I see.
Right?
Yeah.
So, and we're not going to go because we're out of
overtime, but you know.
We're not going to run through that, but that's the path that this movie, if like you approach it as a philosopher, that this movie forces us to look at. Because in the first instance, that's a constructed reality. So we have the question of, are constructed realities less real than other kinds of realities? I don't know, because most of our realities are constructed in some way.
Yeah. So I guess, and here's how much in right now, in real life, do we have control over things? You know what I mean? Like, it feels like we have control, but in reality, is the system in control? The system in quotes, because it's whatever system makes the most sense. Have you ever heard of, this is so random, the dead internet theory? Where is a conspiracy theory that the internet is now mostly made up of automated content and bot activity.
Oh.
The theory claims that this is the result of coordinated effort to control the population and reduce human activity. And I'm not going to lie, kind of might be true.
Yeah.
Don't want to be tinfoil hatty, but I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, we can take a look at where does average person in this building, in this high school, get their information.
And I talk about that with my students, and a lot of them say TikTok.
Right. And so TikTok famously is algorithmically driven.
Yeah.
Meaning that you will see what the algorithm wants you to see.
Yeah. And today I brought up the statistic because we're talking about finding evidence for an essay and stuff. Like, research studies showed that over 80% of students could not identify a real news story and a sponsored story.
Yeah.
Like 82% of like 7,000 students polled could not tell the difference.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that crazy?
That's terrifying.
Yep.
Yeah. So if that's true, and if humanity continues to allow our phones to construct our reality for us, we are living in that first reality.
Yeah. Yep. That's what I mean. It feels like we are a daughter, and we feel like we have the control, but mother is actually running everything.
Yeah.
That's why we got to go build a cabin in the top of the mountains.
or we can learn how to think critically.
Yeah.
And start sorting through all of the stuff that is currently part of our reality.
Yeah.
And make decisions, not allowing the algorithm to make decisions, or this, good-looking person to make our decisions like we make them.
Yeah.
We decide what is real and what isn't. We decide.
Oh, man.
And in that case, we're in the fourth of the four realities.
Yeah.
Where daughter has said, I am now going to make my own reality.
Yeah.
I am going to teach these children. I am going to create.
But everything about that was constructed for her. Even how to think.
Right.
So.
Right. But, yeah, that's true. So that's actually a really good point. So is it even possible to escape, even if we're critical thinkers?
And I guess, you know what? If you're happy, what's the problem? You know what I mean?
Oh, my God. No.
It's like, I remember back when I was in high school and we talked about Brave New World, and my English teacher was saying, I've had students say they would elect to live here.
Mm-hmm.
Because,
I have too,
it's the... But, like, even without thinking, like, you don't have to think.
Right.
It's...
Well, that gets back to your point about laziness. Thinking is hard.
It is hard.
Learning how to think critically is hard. Doing it is hard, especially when everyone else around you is like, this, why?
Yeah.
Like, I like scrolling on my phone for hours.
Yeah.
I like, allowing that.
Feels good.
Yeah, it does. There is definitely a
chemical reaction.
Neurobiological...
So we're basically out of time, but I do want to know what your other questions were.
Okay.
At least our audience wants to know.
Oh, I'm sure.
I'm speaking for them.
So I'll just...
I like this episode.
This is what I do in my head all the time.
Yeah.
I love it. So there's just so much here. So like I don't know, the significance of the death of the mouse. Like, why is the death of the mouse one of the turning points for her? So there's a lot of continua that this movie presents to us. Like, should we allow fear of something to dictate our actions versus should we want exploration and knowledge? That's a continuum somewhere. Where are you on that continuum? Same thing with safety and freedom. Mm-hmm. So daughter at one point has a decision to make. Do I stay here safe and continue, or do I claim my freedom, go out?
Yeah.
So the idea of like, there's a psychological effect that once we've decided something is true,
Yeah.
it takes a massive amount of counter evidence before we will change our opinion. I don't remember what that's called.
I think the quote is, "The truth will set you free, but first it'll piss you off."
Sure.
Is that it?
I don't know.
I was trying to sneak that in there.
But that's the idea. But basically, that is an uncritical mind.
Yeah.
Where I've decided this is true, and I don't really care what else happens in contradiction of this thing I've decided is true.
Yeah.
I'm going to still hold it. The critical mind reduces that amount of massive amounts of counter evidence down to some counter evidence is enough for us to step back and say, okay, is this thing that I've decided is true actually true?
Yeah.
And continue. So your truth, you're always moving towards a more perfect truth.
Yeah.
Rather than slavishly holding on to, I've decided this is true. So that's something to consider. So this movie also demands that we look at perception and reality. So how we perceive something, in the case of this movie, how daughter perceives mother creates the reality for the daughter.
Yeah.
And so a critical approach to our perception demands that we actively test, is my perception reality? And in fairness to the daughter, she didn't really have any other option but to view mother as mother.
Right.
Because there wasn't anything. But once she had another option, her immediate response was to swing all the way to mother is Satan. Mother is evil.
Right.
Rather than finding somewhere in the middle. So a critical approach to perception is we evaluate and make constant, minute changes to our perception of reality based on new information.
Yeah.
Rather than just, oh crap, this thing happened that's outside of my perception, so I just swing all the way over here.
Right.
Go ahead.
Oh, well, it's funny. We were talking today in class, like open-minded versus closed-minded.
Yeah.
Why are people closed-minded?
Yeah. It's easier.
Yeah.
We're lazy.
Or it's everything from maybe that's how you were raised. Like your parents maybe are closed-minded, or you don't want to mess up, you don't want to fail.
Yeah.
All these answers that
true.
came about today.
There's more.
I mean,
to keep going. I'm running through them. So, is it ethical to withhold truths or information for the betterment of the people? So, obviously, in this case, mother withholds a lot. Do the ends justify the means? And does that also apply to us in our lives? Are there things that we can withhold from other people and still be good humans or ethical humans? So there's that. In terms of ethics, who should raise the kids? So should we continue to allow flawed human beings to create more flawed human beings? Should we allow the government to take over, as in, like, I don't know, Brave New World, and allow government who knows better to, or should we, construct AI, or should we pass it to a daycare because the daycares are, they're trained to raise kids, whatever.
Can you imagine if you had to pass a test to have a kid?
That'd be awesome. Like a parenting test?
Yeah!
That would be so great. So what future should matter to us? Our individual, personal future, or the future of the human race as a whole? Yeah. So if we focus on one, what is the cost to the other? And
that's what we're doing now. That's
right.
Our society now.
Is focused on our own individual. Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't care much about the future of humanity.
Yeah.
As long as I'm entertained.
Yeah.
As long as I have cake.
Cake is nice, though. I mean,
it's true. Other stuff, sacrifice. Does one human or one entity have the right to sacrifice another for, some end? So in the case of mother, she sacrificed the entire human race. But I think what we feel more is not the killing of the entire race; it's the killing of the previous daughters.
Yeah.
And so there's that question also. I mean, I've one more. So who do we give or who do we allow to have authority over us, and why do we allow that? And should we allow anyone to have authority over us? So
be ungovernable, you say?
No,
That's
just
what
govern ourselves. Like I'm not saying one way or the other. I'm just like okay. So that was the machine gun list of, and there are probably a lot of other philosophical and ethical questions. But from what you know of me, I think that you can probably see why I think this is one of the best. Like I think this is a perfect movie.
Yeah, and I think, like I already mentioned, it's discredited because maybe it's
Netflix.
On Netflix, like straight to Netflix, so it's like, a TV movie to some degree.
Yeah.
Or
I think you could spend if I could create a class, an entire trimester class, and just have this movie as the text.
You could. And you could watch this movie and then have all of these questions for the rest of the try.
And that's how great I think this movie is. So, any final thoughts? Like, this could have been a 4-hour episode pretty easily.
No, you've convinced me to. I don't know where I was officially because I actually finished it today. I fell asleep. Anyway,
it was so dang boring.
I think you convinced this is a 5-star movie.
Yeah.
Officially.
Awesome. So we finally agree about a movie.
We've agreed about movies.
I don't remember any others.
Is it possible to do a couple recommendations of the reel?
Yeah, go for it.
If you want more minimal cast, like isolation with robots, I have 2 options for you.
Gotta have robots.
One is Ex Machina.
I love Ex Machina.
Which
oh my goodness.
There's a guy, a robot, another guy, and it's just conversations kinda and about being human, which is pretty cool.
It's so good.
Rated R, so you know. Anyway,
so you stole one of mine.
And another one, it's different because it's thematically different, but there's still it's Moon. There's Sam Rockwell on the moon by himself, and he does have a robot companion. It's not like raising him; it's mostly just kind of there to support him. Mm-hmm. So it's not like AI evil type of thing. It's more like him dealing with being alone and finding out what's going on.
Cool.
On a very different note, I have one more. Alien Covenant, which is the sequel to Prometheus, where you have a robot, android, he looks like a human, that wants to play God, which is kind of cool. And interesting.
That sounds like a movie I would watch.
Yeah, that one has a deeper meaning. Like, it starts out, he's with his creator, Wayland, like, I created you. But now, fast forward, he wants to play around with the xenomorphs and stuff and kind of be God that way, which is kind of interesting.
Cool.
Yeah.
I might watch that.
Yeah.
So, movies that I don't think any of these are as good as this one, but these are all movies that force you to think and rethink and rethink and rethink. So, The Island. I really like The Island a lot.
I think Michael Bay's best movie.
Yeah.
Is that a hot take?
I think so as well. So another one is Predestination, which you haven't seen.
I haven't seen that one.
I've watched it multiple times, and I still am in awe of how carefully constructed it all is. What's the Cloverfield? Oh, the Cloverfield Paradox.
No.
Yes.
That's bad.
No, well, okay. So it might be a bad movie, but philosophically, it is it introduces so many different so you can see how every character in this movie makes the choices that they make, and they're right choices.
Yeah.
But every character in this movie can't do what they are trying to do.
Yeah.
And so it's this situation where everyone is right, but not like everyone can't have what they want. And I've never seen a movie that successfully pulled that off as well as.
Maybe I gotta rewatch it.
There are massive plot holes. There are like visually, it's not that great, but in terms of just the I don't know how to describe it other than that. Just like everyone's right, but everyone can't have what they want.
Yeah.
They can't be all right, but they are all right, but they're not.
Interesting.
So, anyhow, those would be mine. I don't know what any of those are rated because I watched them all on VidAngel and enjoy movies your way. Which, if you don't like watching R-rated movies specifically because of dumb, pointless sex scenes, gratuitous, pointless violence, and pointless language problems, those services will provide you an opportunity to see some of the great movies that are made less great by adding in sex and gratuitous violence and stupid language, in my opinion. So, yeah, this has been a very different episode.
I liked this.
From what you have come to expect. Hopefully you enjoyed it. This was like recess for me. Like, this is so much fun to, like, exchange ideas with you and bounce and test.
I love that.
Yeah.
I am about to end recess and remind you that our next episode is Star Wars.
That is the end of recess right there.
We do need to stipulate.
Wait, I think the actual name is Pod Racer the movie and other stuff happened.
I don't know.
If I remember
I'm so
right.
excited.
I've only ever seen it once.
Okay, so. Here's the tricky thing, listener. We will have, because we're high school teachers, we will have Christmas break.
Yeah.
And we got to figure out how to work around that.
Yeah.
But hopefully it's not too bad. Thank you so much for listening.
Yeah. Thank you.
We love you. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe.
Yes, please. And share with the people that you love.
Yeah.
Because there's more of this coming.
Send us an email at desertoftherealpod@gmail.com.
Yeah.
And we
do
love you.
We definitely do.
Think critically.
Yes, please.
Bye.
Bye.